Quick note to our listeners, we need your help. We're close to 1 million views on YouTube, and we have over 5,000 subscribers. But if we can get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, that will allow us to raise money for the Finding Genius Foundation and our study to help those suffering from anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Please just take a second and subscribe to the podcast. And if you can, like the video. That'll help us get more listeners. It'll help with the YouTube algorithm. And again, help us reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers and 1 million views. We're going to hit the 1 million views, it looks like, hopefully by May of 2022. But the 10,000 subscribers will be harder. That's going to take until the end of this year. Thank you. Self-decode is the world's first precision health platform that frees you from the generic solutions of traditional healthcare and puts control back in your hands. Using science-backed research and AI-driven algorithms, Self-decode gives you personalized diet, supplement, and lifestyle suggestions based on your body's blueprint, your DNA. Get started for free with an existing DNA file or order a DNA kit at 25% off with the code GENIUS. Start optimizing your health today at selfdecode.com.
Forget frequently asked questions,
common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
go above and beyond.
They become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Before we get started, I have a quick favor. I've been self-funding the Finding Genius Podcast for 5 years now. I've done over 3,000 episodes. And as you can see on YouTube, we're up over 1 million views on the channel, which is fantastic. The next thing I really want to push on is to get up to 10,000 subscribers. Because once we do, we'll be able to put a donate button, and we'll be able to solicit donations to help keep the podcast running and to also get the Finding Genius Foundation moving along. We have a big project studying anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and working on a product to help people overcome these problems because I've seen them explode recently after the last 2 years of the whole virus situation. So if you would, please subscribe to the podcast. That would help us tremendously. Give us a thumbs up. And check in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. It's about $5. If you could buy me a coffee, I'd really appreciate it. It would help keep the channel going, and I love coffee. Thank you.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast, now part of the Finding Genius Foundation. I'm Joe Cohen, founder and CEO of SelfDecode. So we're going to talk about his work and how it interfaces with people that suffer from, inflammation, brain fog, fatigue, digestive problems, etc. So Joe, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell me a bit about your background. How did you first come to the concept of SelfDecode and join the organization or start the organization? What's your background?
I got to Self-decode based on trying to heal my own health issues, which I was successfully able to do using precision health. And yeah, I grew up with a lot of health issues, and doctors didn't really know what was going on. And I tried a lot of different things and different approaches, and in the end, the personalized health approach was the one that helped me out the most.
Yeah, that's excellent. So did you start SelfDecode or did you join it as the CEO?
I started SelfDecode.
Oh, SelfDecode. What's the whole goal of the company?
Oh, yeah. So we're looking to, take precision health to the masses, give people the ability to, look at their DNA, their lab tests, their lifestyle, and make informed health decisions based on that information.
Okay, and the precision medicine has to do with a person's particular DNA. What are some of the factors that you modulate depending on the person that you're trying to help? Like what is personal about, your analysis and recommendations for a person?
Yeah, so based on an individual's genes, the recommendations will change, especially the priority of the recommendations. And same based on the person's lab tests. And so it's a personalized approach to an individual's health based on their genetics and lab tests.
Any examples of some common conditions that people come to you for or with?
I mean, we have topics on, we have 150 topics, and, it runs the gamut of a bunch of different stuff. Some of the big ones are mental health. I think gut is another big one. And then there's like a lot of topics that are, some are related to cardiovascular, hormones, diet and nutrition, sleep, metabolic health, things like that. So it runs the gamut, but I'd say mental health is probably a big one. So,
Okay. When people come to you with mental health issues, what are some of the complaints they have, and how does that tie into their genes?
So you're based on, okay, so let's say somebody comes with a certain issue, stress, anxiety, mood issues. They can then click on the reports, get a whole bunch of recommendations that are prioritized, and then they can see why those recommendations are prioritized for them based on the available literature and also based on their particular genes. So we take people through the process of why we're making a recommendation.
Without naming names, are you able to give an example of recommendations that have been made for someone's file that you're familiar with and how that tied into their personal problem?
Yeah, so I could say, myself as an example, because I don't mind saying it about myself. I basically was able to see, my mood report that that I had some issues with serotonin genes, and certain recommendations that were related to serotonin came up higher in the report, and those helped me a lot more.
Okay, are there certain, how can anyone make a change if they have certain genes that predispose them to be one way or another? What can they do, for example, like with your serotonin gene issues, what did you do? Did you change your eating or supplementation? Like what happened?
For me, the supplements were the biggest impact. So I took supplements that were increasing serotonin. One of them is 5-HTP. And there's other supplements that increase serotonin as well. But the idea was that it gave me a couple mechanisms. It prioritized the recommendations based on my genetics, which was really useful. Learning about my genes has really helped me in a bunch of different ways, including mental health, including a bunch of different physical health issues. And so over the years, I've just gained a lot of information from my genes. And, you can't really look at your genetics in any kind of raw data format. You have to look at it through software because there's so much information.
So what's some of the information that someone might get in a report that had a problem similar to yours? Any tidbits you can mention?
Yeah, I mean, so the reports are personalized, and therefore the recommendations are all different. So everybody gets different recommendations based on what their genetic background is. There are some similarities also because we take into account how big of an impact the recommendation has just in general, but what somebody's top recommendations that they get changes based on their genetics.
Yeah, what kind of people come to you? What are the reasons they tell you that they've come to your service?
Well, so there's half of them come because they want to optimize their health just in general. They want to know how do I optimize? I just want to be better. And they want to learn about their health as well. So we do what's called polygenetic risk scoring. We look at, could be a million variants for a certain topic, and then we predict based on their genetics what their likelihood is, more or less likely for a given topic. And then they could also go dive deeper into that and read a bunch of content that's personalized for their genetics, get recommendations. There's people who are trying to optimize, and then people who are also trying to improve a very specific area about their health. Like I said, we have 100 health topics. So there's a lot of different topics that people can choose from.
Okay, so is the answer usually supplementation, or what are some of the recommendations people are given that they can take action on? What are some examples?
Yeah, there's dietary, lifestyle, and supplement recommendations. So they're broken up into those categories. We give all the recommendations. Yeah, dietary, lifestyle, supplement, whatever has the most evidence behind it. A lot of times there's lifestyle recommendations that could come up that could be like, exercise, get outside, get sun. It could be, psychotherapy, depending on what the topic is, of course. So there's a lot of different lifestyle. There's diet, supplement. Those are the three main topics.
Do people have a genetic risk versus just an overall health risk, or how does that interplay?
Well, people have risks or predispositions for specific topics. There's no overall risk. There's like a risk there's a genetic predisposition for a specific topic. And
okay, like what are some top genetic risks that people might have? Cancer, Alzheimer's, like what would they have?
Well, to the consumer, we don't offer cancer stuff just for regulatory reasons, but things like, if I click on gut health, it could be celiac, irritable bowel, indigestion, gut inflammation, ulcers, H. pylori, acid reflux, gallstones. That's like one topic. If I pick in heart and blood vessels, we'll see total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, triglycerides, artery hardening, varicose veins, general heart health. Then there's, high blood pressure, things like that.
So the report will show what someone's risk factors for all those types of things, or will it only show what they tend to have a high risk for?
It'll show what their predispositions are for all those things, yeah.
Does it rate them on how much of a predisposition? Like, do people freak out if they see just, they're at elevated risk for, this, that, or the other? Like, what do people do?
Depends on the topic, but generally people don't freak out. I mean, again, it's the reason is because the genetics is not like the lifestyle factors have a large effect on the risk. So, genetics is a predisposition, but that's why we pair it with recommendations that they can alter the risk, alter their genetic expression to make it less likely that the problem will occur.
Okay, so we talked about supplementation. What are examples of some lifestyle changes that people can make to help themselves?
So it depends on the topic and it depends on the person's genetics, right? I mean, that's the whole thing is that, health is much better suited when it's personalized, right? If you get general recommendations, that could be fine, but if it's personalized to you, then that's much more useful.
Right, that makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying listeners are going to have a particular condition or not, but what are some of the examples of encouragements that you've made to, specific people to change their lifestyle? What have some people been told to change, for example?
Like what kind of recommendations do we give?
Yeah, just a sample of one or two lifestyle-based ones. What would those look like?
So lifestyle recommendations, we're talking about exercise, lowering blood, like, getting sunlight, yoga, different diets that would be, that would be under diets. Fasting could be cold exposure, could be, just setting a circadian rhythm, different kind of approaches.
How does someone, when they get in contact with you, like what does the testing look like? What do they have to do?
So they can order the test on selfdecode.com, or they can upload an existing test, and they'll get a kit in the mail if they order a test, and they get a return label. They spin the kit, they send it back, and they get the results. 4 weeks.
Is the kid saliva? Is the kid
saliva?
Blood?
Yeah.
Okay, so the kit is just like a cheek swab, or does it have additional work that you have to go to a lab and get blood work done as well? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, there's it's just a saliva. You don't need blood work, but if you have existing blood work, you can upload that as well.
Okay, and then for gut health, the saliva works. I thought that would be for like the oral microbiome. How about the gut microbiome?
Your DNA has an impact on everything in your life, every topic. So microbiome is more like a lab test, which could be useful in checking like at a given point, but your genetics will have an impact on every factor, including your microbiome. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the genetic piece of it, and you could get your whole genome from saliva.
Self-decode has taken the guesswork out of wellness by By analyzing your genes, lab tests, and lifestyle data, SelfDecode provides the most holistic and personalized plan for optimal health. They're giving our listeners 25% off new DNA kits with the code GENIUS, or you can get started free if you have an existing DNA file. Visit selfdecode.com to learn more.
Okay, well, that's a nice, easy way to do it. That's not invasive.
Yeah.
How have you seen that a person's genetics affect their gut health? Any examples there of what happens?
Yeah, I mean, the genetics can predispose people to have certain microbiota. There is definitely an impact on the gut microbiome based on an individual's genetics, which can influence a bunch of different traits related to gut health. I named those traits before, but things like IBS, gut inflammation, these things is celiacs. These are there's definitely a genetic component to these, and you can change the risk based on lifestyle factors.
Are people often surprised at the recommendations, like, oh, this is too simple, or, will this really work type thing?
I mean, there's a lot of different recommendations. For a given topic, there's 15 to 25 recommendations. And, sometimes the best recommendations are the most obvious, but you can just hide those recommendations and then you get the next best recommendations. And so there's always going to be recommendations that people didn't know about.
Okay. What is are there competitors out there? Like what kind of similar things are offered, and what's different about SelfDecode?
So yeah, what's different? I mean, there's definitely competitors, but what makes SelfDecode different is a couple things. Number one, we're the only company on the market doing direct to consumer that is using a very advanced polygenetic risk scoring model. So we also use Ancestry for it. We also do what's called imputation, which through AI machine learning, it could figure out 83 million variants. So when we analyze an individual's variants, we're looking at 83 million variants, whereas most companies are looking at a total of 83 variants, right? And obviously the picture that you're getting is much more narrow. So the scope of how we're looking at things is much broader. We also have a lot of features, like you could upload your lab tests, fill out questionnaires that will tell you your lifestyle risk as well. And the lab test will give you recommendations, and it'll allow you to track your lab markers. The recommendations are also unique. They're actually based on your genetics, which other companies are not. They're not generic recommendations. And, so in terms of the scientific quality and the UI UX and the quality of what we're doing is a lot higher than anything else on the market by far.
And you mentioned earlier, when someone takes their test or gives their saliva sample, how long till they get their report back, the recommendations?
It's about 4 weeks.
Okay. Is there any way to cut that down, or it just takes time to process stuff? Do you see in the future it'll be shorter?
It just takes time. It's just a process. I mean, maybe a little bit shorter in the future, but it is what it is. It's pretty much the industry standard.
Any good stories of people that you've helped? Have they changed, and were they thankful to you? Like, again, any good stories that have come in?
We have tons of stories. I mean, we have a public WeFunder page. We have a Trustpilot page. The WeFunder page has a lot of testimonials there that are not solicited on our part. We got very good 4.9 rating on Trustpilot. And we also get internally, we also get a lot of messages as well. So hard to go through everybody's story, but people have really, improved their health in a variety of ways by learning about their, genetics and blueprint.
Any stories that you remember that were surprising, and how much someone improved, or someone thought they could never improve and it did help? Anything that jumps out at you?
I know that the people that the customers that we have, they don't send us in like extremely detailed stories, but I know from people, just from my surroundings, people in the company, people have been able to, somebody really fixed their mood issues really well. They were irritable all the time, and they were able to fix their mood issues through understanding their genetics. I personally got, I understood what the core of my health issues were by looking at my genetics. I realized, there was also something going on with my cannabinoid system, and and that was causing food sensitivities. So, there's definitely some significant personal stories. People, people's lives have been changed, including mine, based on, if having a significant change in your mood or one of the issues you're dealing with can have a very large change in your life.
Yeah, I'm sure if you feel good, then you treat the other people around you better. And if you don't feel good, it's hard to be a friend or dad or a husband or any of that stuff to other people because you're not feeling good. So it makes sense. Well, very good. Where can people find out more about Self-Decode? Where do they go?
So they can go to selfdecode.com. And if they have a genetic file already, they could sign up. If they don't, they can get a genetic file. And
what is a genetic file? Where would they have one previously that they could use?
The most popular companies are 23andMe, and Ancestry, MyHeritage.
So you take that data and you analyze it deeper, or do you also need your own data to add to it to make it more effective?
No, we analyze it deeper. We have the genetics is a vast forest. There's a lot of things that you can analyze there. So the types of topics we analyze is also different, like what we focus on. But the raw data is going to be the same no matter where you take it, pretty much, right? Unless assuming you're getting like a legitimate file and you're not only testing 1,000 variants or something like that. It's fine where, 23andMe, Ancestry, or our chip is the best suited for what we're doing because, it's easier to check the quality and everything like that. But, if somebody already has a chip from 23andMe or Ancestry, then it's not needed.
Okay, well, very good. So people can go, and what's the website that people can go to get more info? Just selfdecode.com?
Yeah.
Okay, so SELFDECODE, selfdecode.com.
Correct.
Very good. Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your help.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Here's some parting words from Self-Decode's founder, Joe. In a world of uncertainty, we've got you. Before taking control of my health, I had almost given up hope of the life I dreamed of. Then I realized the answers I needed were inside my DNA all along. Let us help you find yours. Start free with an existing DNA file or use code GENIUS to save 25% on a kit. A healthier life is waiting for you at selfdecode.com.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.